3 phones, 1 chip. This is going to be fun. We have got the Oppo K13 Turbo Pro, Poco F7 and iQOO Neo 10, all powered by the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4. We are throwing them into AnTutu, Geekbench, 3D Mark, CPU throttling and BGMI. Oppo's got a built-in fan for cooler performance, the Poco packs the biggest battery for longevity and iQOO is known for stable performance. Price check. Oppo was 37,999, the other two are under 35,000 rupees. So, can the pricier phone actually pull ahead? Well, let's find out. But first, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Alright, enough talk. Straight to the benchmarks. And just so you know, all three phones are running the latest software for these tests. Anyway, let's start with AnTuTu. And yes, we are running it twice. Round 1 saw iQOO Neo 10 flex with a huge 2.06 million score. The K13 followed at 1.98 million and Poco F7 trailed at 1.83 million. Neo 10's CPU was strong at 477,000 with a GPU score of 861,000. Oppo did better CPU 480,000 but lagged slightly on GPU with 854,000. Poco scored lower on both. Round 2 flipped the script. Neo 10 dropped hard to 1.71 million. Oppo dipped to 1.74 million, but Poco stayed steady around 1.83 million. It looks like Poco's playing it safe, while iQOO and Oppo push their chips harder. Next up, GeekBench, testing single core and multi-core performance. And again, we ran it twice to be sure. The Neo 10 dominated both rounds, scoring 2138 single core and 7154 multi-core in round 1, then 2144 and 7113 in round 2. Rock solid and consistent. Poco F7 held second, scoring 1964 and 6058 in round 1, and then dipping slightly to 1946 and 6022 in round 2. But the Oppo K13 Turbo Pro was a head scratcher. Just 793 and 4525 in round 1, and barely better at 888 and 4499 in round 2. This might just be poor optimization. Oppo may not have tuned the phone for Geekbench yet. But the 8S Gen 4 has been out for months, so the low scores are still kind of strange. Hopefully a software update fixes that. Okay, now time for the 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme Stress Test, the best way to check GPU performance. This is where things got kinda weird. The Neo 10 had the highest stability at 85.6%, just ahead of the F7 at 83%. But the actual loop scores were pretty low. Even the Oppo, with just 52.6% stability, had better best and lowest loop numbers. At this point, I was ready to hand it to the F7. But then, something weird happened. Just as I was taking the screenshot, boom, the high temp mode kicked in. That's never happened with the F7 before in our benchmarks. So we called a timeout, gave all three phones a solid 15 to 20 minutes cool down before diving into the next big test. Okay, now time for the CPU throttling test, the real check on sustained performance. Surprisingly, all three phones stayed close here. Neo 10 throttled to 81%, Poco F7 to 79% and Oppo K13 Turbo Pro, despite its built-in fan, dropped to 76%. But the scores tell the real story. The F7 actually had higher max and average scores than the Neo 10. And its minimum score was nearly matching Neo's average. The K13 Turbo Pro, even with the fan, throttled the most and posted the weakest scores. Now before I jump into BGMI, let's do a quick battery check. By the way, all three phones started at 100%. After the benchmark runs, the Neo 10 dropped to 72%, the S7 to 67% and the K13 Turbo Pro ended up at 70%. Now on to BGMI. We played a 15-minute session on each phone using the latest version of the game at the time of testing. Starting with the Neo 10. While it technically supports 144Hz in BGMI, you need bypass charging for that, and there have been a few bugs after a recent update. So we stuck to 120Hz. It averaged 117.1 FPS with 5% lows at 76.5. Max temperature was 35.4 degrees Celsius. Solid performance. Next, the F7. This one caps out at 90 FPS, but it holds it ground well. We got an average of 89.6 FPS and 5% lows of 86.1. Temp stayed cool at 31 degrees. Finally, the K13 Turbo Pro. It hit an average of 116.2 FPS at 120Hz, but those 5% lows dipped to 66.2 FPS. That's a bit of a red flag for longer sessions. Temps were still decent though, maxing out at 32.4 degrees. After gaming, time for the battery check. Neo 10 at 65%, Poco F7 at 60%, K13 Turbo Pro at 63%. about a 7% drop all around. Surprisingly, the F7 dips the most, despite having the biggest battery. So what's the real takeaway? All three run the same Snapdragon 8s Gen 4, but performance is anything but equal. Raw specs don't tell the full story. It's about how each brand tunes the chip, manages heat, and handles sustained load. Neo 10 is the power champ with strong numbers and smooth gaming. Poco F7 plays it safe, steady and efficient, but hits a limit. Oppo's K13 Turbo Pro has promise with its fan, but feels held back by conservative tuning. Bottom line, same chip, different experience. Real-world tests show who's pushing hard and who's playing it safe. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.